The 2024-25 Women's Super League season is over. Therefore, it's time for our season reviews. In these videos, we discuss how the teams competed compared to their expectations, what mitigating circumstances may have occurred during the season, and rate every club's campaign on a scale from 1 to 10. Today, we finish the series with West Ham. It was a tough start to the campaign for the Hammers, but an incredible second half of the season saw them rise to 9th. We take a look at what spurred such an impressive turnaround and how they can continue on this trajectory next season. This is our West Ham season review. Alright, let's get into it then. Today we're on to our final WSL season review, as today we're on to West Ham United. West Ham, they had a bit of a slow start to the season. I think there was an initial fear that they will be dragged into the relegation battle, but a really strong second half of the campaign, and they ended up finishing 9th.
Yeah, credit to them. I think a lot of people had them in trouble or in that relegation fight with Crystal Palace. We thought, even myself, in the preseason predictions, I had them as going down. This was the year where potentially a side were going to come up from the Championship and knock a WSL side down, and we thought that side was going to be West Ham, but they've proved a lot of people wrong. I think you're right. Early days, they did look to be in a bit of trouble. Crystal Palace were only a point or two behind them, and it did look like it was going to be a tough season for the Hammers. But what a turnaround! Rayan Skinner, credit to her, because they had a really good window, and then she used that quality well. We're seeing with other clubs where even when they make the good signings, the manager just doesn't find a way to make it work. But I thought Rayan Skinner got it tactically spot on when they changed to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-4-2. And they looked really sharp. They played some brilliant football across the board, top class from West Ham. And I thought that they're one of the best sides in the league in the second half of the season. They were that good. So credit to them. I thought it was a brilliant turnaround to defy the season expectations to finish. Well, they finished 9th in the end. That's not a bad season at all.
Yeah, I think what we saw this season was how important January business is.
Yeah.
Because obviously teams like Everton recruited heavily, but West Ham made some really smart signings and bringing in, it was Ava Nystrom came in January, I believe, the Finnish centre half. We saw as well the big signing, Shakira Martinez, coming in, and she was brilliant. Second half of the season, she notched up 10 goals in 12 games in the back half of the campaign. Freakishly good numbers. Yeah. And I would be very surprised if West Ham don't have any offers for her this summer. I think clubs in the WSL and probably across Europe and maybe even the NWSL will be interested in her signature. But they're in a position where they can demand a decent fee. Yeah. I think that's really good for West Ham. That they can say 500,000, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And if they get that money, that is money they can invest across the squad. And that's what's been really smart about their recruitment. And then you've got players with the usual high performances. Vivian Asayi, one of the top players in the league this season. I think we both had her in our WSL team this season because she was that good. And yeah, I think West Ham are a very decent side. They've got a really nice mix across the squad. A lot of the teams in the WSL are either really good defensively and offer nothing up front, or quite good in attack but don't really have anything defensively. I think West Ham are a really well balanced side, and if they can recruit well this summer, then I don't think they'll be dragged into the relegation battle next season. I mean, they're already showing some really good signs. Yeah. So yeah, exciting time really for West Ham.
And to be fair, to give them credit, even in the summer window before the start of the season, they did really well. Kinga Shemik has, we didn't really know too much about her when she came in, but has been phenomenal in goal for West Ham this season, and again has contributed to that defensive solidity. Same with Mengwen Lee. I thought she came in and did well.
Just to say on that, Zhemic was one where there was a lot of doubt and a lot of scepticism because, and I think this is a problem across women's game at the moment. We're seeing a lot of the internationals, but it's I think it was profound in this one because we saw a fan favourite in Mackenzie Arnold leave the club, and so there's immediately this panic, this fear because that's a player they really like, the fans, but then you see Zhemic come in, a younger player, someone who hasn't got the WSL experience, but comes in and performs at a much higher level than someone like Mackenzie Arnold, who was held in really high regard. And so I think this will be a thing that happens over the next few years as we see a lot of these players phased out really quickly. I think we're already seeing on an international level where, because the young players coming through have had a much better level of coaching now, we're seeing young players come in and immediately be at the level. Yeah. We saw it this season at West Ham with Denton. I thought she looked really good for them. But yeah, West Ham's defence second half season improved massively, and obviously that then led to them getting positive results.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really encouraging for West Ham. Let's review competitions then against expectations. WSL 9th in the league. It's probably slightly exceeding the expectations. I would have said 10th, 11th at the highest, because I think a lot of people would expect them to be in that relegation battle. But 9th in the end, I'd say that's succeeding.
Yeah, 100%. But two sides between them and the bottom is very strong. And as you say, I had them 12th. So I think
you have to say exceeding.
Yeah, exactly. I think they've done very well, especially when you consider they were only a couple points off, potentially finishing higher. And there was a point during their really good run at the end of the season where they could have potentially got into the top half. So I think definitely exceeded there.
It's nice because they've given themselves a bit of room to grow next season. Yes. If they'd finished 6th this year, you can't really do better than that.
No.
Especially with London City Lionesses coming in and buying everyone. But I think 9th gives them a little bit of room to grow. League Cup semi-final stage, not Tottenham out in the quarterfinals. Ultimately lost to Chelsea in the semis, but I think they did a really good account of themselves getting to that stage.
Yeah, 100%. I thought they did. They did very well, and even in that game, in that semi-final, they gave Chelsea a decent match. But yeah, last four of a competition, it means that obviously the draw did get a bit fortunate, but they were there. They were in with the shots. So credit to them.
I think in any other year, though, you consider Tottenham and Chelsea very tough
that
draw.
Is true. Yeah, Chelsea was a very difficult draw.
Yeah, of course.
But I thought the way Tottenham have been playing this season, that was getting a bye. But yeah, I thought West Ham did well to come through that game.
Yeah, I'd agree. And then FA Cup round of 32. I think they'd be very disappointed in the manner they lost. Obviously, it was to Liverpool, but 5-0 was a very disappointing result. There was a red card in the first half for Ambitisiak, but overall, I think put that one behind them.
Yeah, that was the West Ham of old. I mean, the Tisiak challenge was just, I remember horrendous. She ran 20 yards just to go and stud someone in the shins. I thought that was a bizarre one. But yeah, that was a weird game. I don't feel like anyone watched it because obviously there was other FA Cup ties going on. They were interested. Yeah. It was like, let's turn over here. We're Liverpool 5-0 up.
I don't even know if it was televised. So it was only it was on YouTube, wasn't it?
But yeah, that was a weird night for West Ham. I think they just the red card really didn't help things there. That's why I think it just got a bit out of hand.
Yeah, indeed. So, but overall, I'd say exceed expectations. Semi-finals in the League Cup, 100%. 9th in the WSL. Really impressive season for the Hammers. I think it's a nice springboard now where they can't really afford to rest on their laurels. I think we've already seen this summer they won't. They're already being ambitious in the transfer market. So, yeah, we'll see what business comes in, and obviously we'll talk about that in August. But really positive stuff. Let's look at some key matches from this campaign. I picked out two very contrasting games. One which paints them in the best light, and one which shows they've still got room to grow. So, picked out Crystal Palace 1, West Ham 7. An absolute demolition job. And I know that Palace aren't at the level, but this was a masterclass in how to effectively move the ball forward at speed, generate transitional moments, and go and score lots of goals. It was clinical, it's ruthless, it was very, very impressive.
Yeah, as you say, the clinicality on show here from West Ham was absolutely superb. Every chance they got, every chance they got, they finished it superbly. They were absolutely deadly, and this was a nod. This was kind of the cherry on the icing on the cake of the run they'd been on. It was a run that also involved that draw to Chelsea, which was a brilliant game as well for the Hammers. But yeah, in this match, they put Crystal Palace to the sword. If it wasn't for a penalty, they would have kept a clean sheet as well. So it was just a absolute masterclass of attacking prowess. So yeah, big credit to West Ham to pull off that result.
Speaking of penalties, though, I do think there is still a little bit of problem with their box defending, as shown in Arsenal 4, West Ham 3. This has to be the most frustrating result of the season. West Ham led this game 2-0, then 3-1, and they had such an opportunity here to take a win against Arsenal. Like they did last season, they beat Arsenal last campaign. Hawa Sissoko with a great goal in that game. Yeah. But this season, they had a chance to do it again, get another win over Arsenal away from home, but complete capitulation. And the penalty they conceded, to concede that at this level, is a huge problem. And again, it shows there needs to be that squad turnover.
I remember watching this on stream and just thinking, what on earth is happening in this football match? Because it was ebbed and flowed, as you say, they're in cruise control. Then Arsenal got one back, and you thought, okay, 2-1 Arsenal are just going to turn this around. They came out for the second half, and Martinez responded immediately and thought 3-1. Oh, they're in a great position. And I think they conceded 3 of the worst goals I've seen this season. Scrappy box, goals that get prodded in from corners, terrible box defending, and then Curtis have caught the ball in their own penalty area.
Yeah.
It was just, and you're right, it just showed that West Ham's, there are still certain players in the squad or certain days where they aren't at the level, and they do need to change that, because as you say, you can't be catching the ball in your own penalty area at the top level of football.
Yeah, I mean, she has been released. I think when
Exactly.
when the board sat down and released her, there's one moment.
It's harsh to release players, but that is if I was a West Ham fan, as much as you lose that sentimental value, you like those players or whatever, that is another show of the ambition that this West Ham side have. The fact they're getting rid of the players who did make mistakes this season, who did slip up, who aren't at the level. The fact they've cutthroat, got rid of them already. It's a very good sign of that ambition and that drive that West Ham look to push on with. But as you say, I think it's important for West Ham to take the momentum from the good results like Palace, like Chelsea, but also use those slightly worse results like this Arsenal game to understand where they are, but also how far they've still got to go and what they need to do to keep improving.
Yeah. At team assessment then, we've covered a lot of the best players in this side. We've spoken about Sai, we've spoken about Vivian, we've spoken about Shakira Martinez. Anyone else that you would pick out for praise?
Katrina Gorey is, she could play in the worst side in the world and still drop a good rating and still
she
play
did
well.
At season. I think she had a great rating on Football, but every single match.
Just absurd. The consistency year on year from Gorey is just incredible. She's so calm, so composed on the ball, a brilliant head to have it in your side. That experience, that composure is just exactly what you need, and they're the kind of players West Ham are going to need to help them progress to the next level. If you're bringing in these young, up-and-coming, exciting talents, you need the players like Katrina Gorey just to help them settle in and help them, to get used, especially in that defensive third. It's good to see Gorey, helping out. Obviously, she helping out defensively, but give that organisation the biggest thing a starting 11 can have, or the biggest part of a football team, is that spine. And Katrina Gorey is a massive part of West Ham's spine. She props that midfield up and just constantly delivers brilliant performances. And I think she adds to what my other point would be about how well the team have played is that as a unit. We spoke about how they're done individually, and yes, the goals Martinez and Asai have been scoring, the high performances from Shemek and Kerr have been brilliant. But as a unit, as a front three, that front three looks brilliant for West Ham. As a back four, that they work in tandem. It was really good from Ryan Skinner, to be fair, because I think what she's got is that at some teams you see a really good unit that aren't at the quality, or you see good individuals but they don't play as a team. Ryan Skinner has got a really good balance of a team that play and perform as a unit and defend in numbers and attacking numbers, but also they have that individuality and they do have that quality to go on and win football matches.
Yeah, not sure there's much I can add to that. In terms of improvements, I would say... I would have said centre-back, but they did a really... Nystrom came in and performed well, and I think Tissiak had some bizarre moments, but overall did really well this season. But I just think it's about strengthening in depth.
Yes.
They're already bringing a right winger. That's really important. And yeah, I think they're doing the signings. They're doing the business I would want them to do. I think bringing another midfielder, because you don't want to have to play Katrina Gorey every game, because she will get injured eventually.
A bit,
I think we've seen towards the end of the season they're starting to flag a little bit. So yeah, I think just bringing players that can rotate in more effectively than the players you've got. But overall, I'd be very optimistic as a West Ham fan looking to next season. I think all the rumours so far have been really positive.
Yeah, 100%.
Any way you'd improve?
I think I agree. I think that in terms of, as you say, the positions that are improving, like I'd say a right winger or a midfielder, they're already looking and they're already getting involved, looking into those kind of players. So I think that they're doing what they already need to do, and they're getting rid of the depth players that aren't good enough, and if they can swap them for some better depth players, I think that massively helps them. For West Ham now, it's about being proactive. reacted because I think they've done brilliant in the second half season. But my biggest criticism would be is they've played the same way in every game, and for the majority of the games, it's been the same starting 11. And as we've seen at other clubs, that can catch you out sometimes. Sides can then work out how you want to play. So I think that what they need now is some players that maybe will give you a few different options when they come off the bench, or if you want to rotate the 11 around for who's starting what games, you want to have players that can offer you a bit something a bit different.
Yeah. Well, it's Elizabeth Oval coming in on the right flank. I think having Manuela Parvi then as a backup on both wings is really strong. You just need that again across the board. Bring it, Rika Ueki can cover that striker position, but if she's playing attack midfield, you ideally want another striker option. You ideally want another attack midfield option. You just want options across the board. But West Ham are in a really, really nice position now, and I think I couldn't see them going down even if they signed no one. Obviously, if they sold a few players, they might be in trouble. But I think if they kept the squad the same, I can't see them going down next season. If they can add a few players, they'll be really comfortable.
Yeah, and I think they've silenced a lot of critics, especially Skinner. I think that when you look at the when on paper, when you look at the pedigree of managers at this level now, you've got your Sonia Bonpastor's come in, your Skinner and Slagers, and teams are up, and Vidicic coming in as well. That's the thing. I think it was the mid-pack teams who have adopted to go for managers who are very good tactically, like your Vidicic and your Villaharm, and even Liverpool have now sat Matt Beard to bring in and bought.
Rayan Skinner really is the surviving member of the pure Barclays managers.
Exactly.
Well, actually, Skinner as well. They're the only two. Everyone else is gone. Your Idefels, your Hayes, your Beard, they're going now.
Yeah, 100%.
They're all gone. Skinner's are keeping it alive.
Rayan Skinner, credit to her, because I think there's a lot of people who would look at it and go, "Is she good enough to coach this level?" 100%. I think that it's very interesting because she isn't. I'm not saying she's old, but she's not a young and upcoming manager.
No.
So and
when you consider the average age of managers now, you look at your Dario Vidicic is
exactly
not even 40. Jonathan Giraldes, arguably the best manager around right now, is 33. So the average age of managers is really low because a lot of the managers in the women's game tend to be male coaches who won't get an opportunity because they're too young, but will get an opportunity in the women's game because they're very good.
And I think that it's very interesting an older manager kind of learn tactically. I think Skinner, she has got better tactically, which is slightly better to see. But I do think West Ham they lean on that individuality. She implements a simple structure, and they have the quality to go out there and win football matches.
Yeah, I also think it's not as much learning, but being able to play a different system. She's never been able to play attacking football because she's never had the players to do that. No. But now she's got players that can execute a better system. She's able to give them that attacking freedom and focus on defensive solidity.
Yeah.
When you've got to do both because your attack is weak, it's very difficult then. But I think West Ham are very good at being solid at the back and being able to transition quickly because their front line is rapid. Yeah. And against top sides, that is very effective. And against lower sides, that's very effective because your attackers are better than the opposition defenders. So they will win games of football. And that's the really important thing. We've seen West Ham, even last season when it wasn't as strong, they beat Arsenal. We've seen them this season, should have beaten Arsenal, draw with Chelsea. Yeah. That's an impressive season where they've taken the game to a lot of these top sides. I think the problem for West Ham is that inconsistency against lower ranking teams, because the way they want to win games is by inviting pressure and looking to play with the space that creates.
Yeah.
But against a side like Crystal Palace, who sit in their penalty box and fear the world for 90 minutes, that sometimes doesn't work. What they did really well against Palace was bait them out.
Yeah.
And that is showing the maturity, that tactical maturity from West Ham. They found solutions to the problems they had earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So that's been really impressive. I mean, I think back to the other Palace game, they were 2-0 down, weren't they, West Ham? They came back 5-2. Okay. How that happened is beyond me, but it shows they've got that fighting spirit, and I think that's important for West Ham. But yeah, overall, really impressive campaign. Looking ahead to next season then, if I had to predict it right now, I think they'd be around 7th for me.
Yeah, 100%. I think top half has to be the aim.
That's not top half.
No. Okay.
I think it's going to be very difficult to get top half now, because if London City Lionesses are signing players like Ingrid Engen, you'd have to assume they're going to be 5th.
Brighton will be up there. Liverpool.
Brighton are investing. Liverpool are investing. Aston Villa are investing, and you've got them West Ham.
It's not unknowns.
It's so tight.
That's the thing. West Ham could play better than they did this season, and finish 8th. And that would be only an upgrade of one place, and it would feel a bit of a disappointing season. But there's a lot of quality now. It is very hard. Consistency, I think, is going to be the key word next season that is going to be talked about a lot over the campaign, because it'll be whoever's the most consistent will finish the highest, because there will be so many sides that have the quality to be best of the rest, but the side who get the better results, the side who can pick up points, on more occasions than the others, they're going to be the side who end up finishing in that 5th place. So I think
maybe just maybe we should have more teams in the league.
maybe
Then this whole midfield battle would actually be in the midfield rather than one of them's going to get relegated next season. But yeah, hopefully we do see expansion soon, because there's a lot of good sides in this league, and one of them is going to go down next year through no fault of their own. It's just such a high concentration, which that is good. We want to see a team full of competition, but it does mean that it's very difficult to read any of that second half of the table.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
But I think West Ham, it's one of those where I think they're set for a brilliant season, but the WSL throws weird things at you, and as you say, with that bit of battle being so tight, we get 5 matches, we've bottom the league. But I think they'll be better than that. I think they'll fare well.
Ratings wise, then, how do you assess West Ham's season?
I mean, they've exceeded expectations massively, and the football they've played has been brilliant. I'm gonna go for an 8.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I've given everyone else.
I've completely forgotten by this point.
We
People are going to be sat there going, your rating system's terrible because you've got all these different numbers. I have no idea what I gave up.
Rating is terrible.
Yeah, I can't remember. So I'm
got to make a table of it.
I'm just going to go for an 8.
Yeah, I will say a 7, because I think I might have given Arsenal an 8.
I think I gave Arsenal an 8, but no, I don't know what I gave.
I'm not sure I can rank West Ham alongside the European champions, but
yeah,
there you go. I think West Ham did very well this season.
They did do well.
But that is the end of this video. That's the end of our WSL reviews. We are back tomorrow. I know you think, daily videos, it's got to stop soon. No, it doesn't stop, because the Euros are coming up. So tomorrow we begin our Euros previews. We're going to be previewing every single team that's going to this summer's Euros. We're going to be looking at their history in the competition. We're going to be looking at the players. We're going to be giving you some ideas of how these teams are going to play, so you can understand those games in a better sense. So look out for that. Starting tomorrow, we'll be talking about Switzerland and the chances of the hosts pulling off some upsets.
Maybe. Have West Ham got any Swiss players?
Poibel.
There you go.
Maybe. Might be Austrian.
Can't
remember. Let's
tune in anyway.
Should be interesting. That, though, is everything from us today. Hope you have enjoyed. West Ham fans, get involved in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts on everything we've said today, how you're feeling about this season, and of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. That, though, is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.